Good evening. Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho. And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. The Philippines is demanding the withdrawal of China's largest vessel from its exclusive economic zone, with the monster ship a mere 77 nautical miles away from the shoreline of Zambales.
After repeated denials of a political plan in 2028, Vice President Sara Duterte now says she is, quote, seriously considering the option of running in 3 years.
Speaking of Vice President Duterte, her public ratings continue to decline. A recent Okta survey showed her trust rating dipping by as much as 10 percentage points.
Straight on to our top story. The message could not get any clearer. Withdraw your monster ship now. That's what the Philippines wants China to do after the superpower deployed and redeployed its largest Coast Guard vessel off of Zambales.
Well, Beijing is being accused of normalizing its illegal presence in Manila's 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone with the intent of shooing away Filipino fishermen from Bajo de Masinloc, or, as we know it, Scarborough Shoal.
For now, though, the Philippine Coast Guard hopes that it can at least keep the Chinese vessel in line by having 2 of its biggest boats trail the monster. Tonight's big story from Gio Robles.
This aerial inspection by a Philippine Coast Guard partially captures the monster. From a distance, Beijing's ship is as steady as it goes. Its whole 541-foot length body on smooth, uninterrupted sail. Only Chinese Coast Guard vessel 5901 is merely 77 nautical miles west of Capones Island in San Antonio, Zambales. That means it is within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. This has raised concern among Filipino security and defense officials who believe China's monster ship is there to specifically intimidate local fishermen.
The presence of the monster ship in our waters is illegal and inconsistent with the exercise of freedom of navigation and innocent passage. We do not want to normalize this kind of behavior. It is an escalation and provocative.
Based on PCG's monitoring, the foreign ship is coasting near Zambales and Bajo de Masinloc or Scarborough Shoal. It was first spotted in the area on January 4 using Canada's Dark Vessel Detection System. The monster ship briefly left after a couple of days, replaced, according to PCG, by a smaller boat that they pushed away from Zambales' shoreline. But by January 11, Beijing's largest Coast Guard vessel is back in our waters. To keep CCG 5901 at bay, literally and figuratively, PCG has deployed 2 of its biggest vessels. BRP Gabriela Silang and BRP Teresa Magbanwa will keep tabs on Beijing's monster ship as it refuses to leave. Time and again, China has insisted that the shoal in the area, which it calls Wangyandao, is part of its territory.
Our main role right now is to make sure that the China Coast Guard vessel don't come close off the coast of Zambales. With regard to moving them farther away from Bajo de Masinloc, I think that's a different question already.
The National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea is adamant it will not let China build another artificial island on Scarborough Shoal.
These are red lines, non-negotiable, na gagawa siya ng any structure or reclamation on Bajo de Masinloc.
The standing call now of the Philippines to China: withdraw your monster ship from our EEZ. What if China keeps up its aggression over the West Philippine Sea? The Marcos administration is not yet dismissing the possibility of ally countries pitching in like Japan, which has a reciprocal access agreement with Manila. Meantime, at least 5 underwater drones have been discovered in Philippine waters, the latest of which was that from Masbate, bearing Chinese markings and seen floating on December 30. The Navy has completed analysis of the drone found much earlier in Calayan, Cagayan. But the Armed Forces declined to disclose its origin, but said the device may have been used for military operations. For News 5, Gio Robles, we are One News.
Is Vice President Sara Duterte headed for the presidential race in 2028?
While on a trip to Japan, she said recent events have made her seriously think about it.
Well, one of her allies believes that Sara could win if the recent Iglesia ni Cristo peace rally is any indication. Camille Samonte with the rest of the details.
During her meet and greet with overseas Filipino workers in Tokyo, Japan, Vice President Sara Duterte said she's seriously considering running for the 2028 presidential elections. Well, she didn't actually say that she's aiming for the land's highest post, but as the normal progression goes, Duterte may be headed there. After all, she remains on top of the list of preferred presidential candidates according to surveys. The VP is citing recent events in the country as a factor in her decision. Duterte believes that more than ever, Filipinos should stand firm, especially with government policies that need fixing. This could only be done, according to the former running mate of President Bongbong Marcos, if the people are united and know where they are going. In past statements, Duterte said she'll decide whether or not to run for the presidency in 2026. For former Presidential Legal Counsel Sal Panelo, VP Sara can easily win for president if the support she has now is any indication. Panelo cites the Iglesia ni Cristo's January 13 peace rally that drew in tens of thousands of people. INC reiterated that the gathering was in support of PBBM's stance not to pursue impeachment complaints against Duterte.
Star power ni Inday Sara hindi nawawala, hindi kumukupas. Unang-una, kung siya'y tumakbo nun, siya na ang presidente ngayon.
But the Justice Department does not see INC's or any group's support, for that matter, having any bearing on the probe the NBI is conducting against the Vice President. Duterte was investigated for her kill threat against the President, his wife Liza, and his cousin Speaker Martin Romualdez. Soon, according to Justice Secretary Boying Remulla, the NBI will submit its findings. From there, authorities will know whether or not to file charges against VP Sara.
We just have to look at the law as something that equalizes everything between all of us. That's why we cannot give special favors to people because of standing.
For News 5, Camille Samonte, We Are One News.
Well, following the nationwide peace rally of Iglesia ni Cristo, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin affirmed President Bongbong Marcos' unchanged stance on the impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte, saying it is a waste of time. On the other hand, members of Congress are determined to push the impeachment forward. In fact, a fourth impeachment is already being drafted. They are hopeful that this resolution would achieve the one-third vote from Congress. Now, that's according to House Secretary Reginald Velasco. In the event that they file a fourth impeachment complaint with 103 signatures, the first three complaints will no longer be entertained, and the fourth will stand in the impeachment court.
So upon verification, I can immediately transmit it to the plenary, and then the plenary has to read it out and then refer it to the Senate. No? It can be done in one whole day or 2 days.
According to Velasco, around 10 to 12 majority and minority members of Congress have expressed interest in pushing it forward. They will only have until the next week in order to file this. Some leaders of the majority have expressed that they are not aware of the fourth complaint, though.
So, hindi ko alam kung may katotohanan yan o hindi ko rin alam kung merong magsusulong talaga ng pang-apat na impeachment. We never talked about the fourth impeachment. We actually haven't talked about the impeachment complaints yet, no?
I have to read it first. Kung mayroon mang ganun. Pero as of now, sa majority po, parang wala pa po kaming, syempre as a part of the majority, wala pa naman po.
On the other hand, Makabayan bloc members remain firm on the decision to support a fourth impeachment complaint.
Oo, endorse namin niya lahat ng mga pagkakataon na pwedeng ma-impeach o mga way na pwedeng ma-impeach si Sara Duterte ay gagawin namin.
Moving on to other news, the new Octa fourth quarter 2024 survey results are in, and President Bongbong Marcos maintains majority public trust and approval, while Vice President Sara Duterte's ratings took a noticeable dip. Let's take a look at the numbers. President Marcos's trust rating fell from 69% in September to 65% this November, whereas VP Duterte made a 10 percentage point difference with 59% in September and plummeting to 49% in November. This marks the first time that the Vice President's trust ratings have fallen below the majority threshold, which has been on a downward trend since December of 2023. Now, the performance ratings of President Marcos fell also from 66% to 64%, while Vice President Duterte's performance ratings dropped 4 points from 52% to 48%. Taking a look now at the chamber leaders, Senate President Cheese Escudero and House Speaker Martin Romualdez also remain favored by the Filipino people, whereas Chief Justice Alexander Dismundo received 10% trust and 8% performance rating scores. The nationwide survey was conducted on November 10 to 16, 2024 through face-to-face interviews amongst 1,200 male and female respondents. And you may recall that OVP members faced contempt charges over confidential funds during this time. The survey has a plus-minus 3% margin of error at a 95% confidence level.
Well, up next, Chavit Singson has bowed out of the senatorial race. What does he plan to do next? We speak to the former Ilocos Sur governor after the short break. Please keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. COMELEC is still waiting for former Ilocos Sur Governor Chavit Singson to formally withdraw his candidacy after bowing out of the senatorial race. But even if that happens, his name will stay in the ballots because printing has already commenced. Singson earlier said he is dropping out for health reasons, but he still vows to serve the public any way that he can.
All right. We have a chance now to speak to the man himself. We have with us tonight former Governor Chavit Singson. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening.
Sir, kamusta po? What happened here? I think you caught a lot of people by surprise.
Well, I'm okay now. I was hit by pneumonia. That's much graver than pneumonia. So I decided to quit because a lot of people are inviting me to all the provinces because most of the governors and mayors and councilors are the ones supporting me. So a lot of conflict and everything. So my doctor has advised me to rest well before I continue. But even if I'm well now, I don't know when we'll, especially now that we have a lot of virus coming in from China. So I said it's useless, even if I'll win, if I'll get sick or more problems. So I decided to quit already.
Governor,
and, I'm just sorry for my supporters because they're very helpful. They're very active, especially now that the campaign is nearing. So I decided because it's useless. Even if I'll win, if I'll die, better stay alive than I can. But I promise them all what that I'm doing now, helping the transport group, the drivers. I'm still doing it.
Gov, you didn't consider. Right, Gov, you didn't consider campaigning na lang on social media. There's a lot of other ways for you to campaign without showing up in person, or is it's just a personal choice that if you were going on the campaign trail, it has to be in person.
Yeah, very active yung team ko. Top 3 kami sa Facebook. So, iniisip ko rin lahat yan. Nag-sorry nga ako sa kanilang lahat. noong 12 dahil nga hindi ko na ipagpatuloy dahil nga sa anytime tatamaan din ako later on dahil more more active na yung mga supporters ko. Nagkukumplect na nga yung mga nag-invite sa akin.
Meron kayong yung mga supporters nyo, nabanggit nyo, no? You've been mentioning them since kanina, Gov. Itong mga supporters nyo ba, meron kayong, kumbaga, ipapalit na direksyon sa kanila? What I mean to say is, are you endorsing anyone para yun na lang ang suportahan nila? Or are you leaving them to decide kung sino na lang ang susuportahan nila?
Yung mga pinangako ko, ginagawa ko lahat. Hanggang ngayon nga, nagpapapremyo pa ako. Up to December, up to February 10. Pagbawal na, tinuloy-tuloy ko pa rin lahat ng pangako ko.
Pero in terms of mga kandidato?
Yung VBank na because 77% of our kababayan na walang bank account, that will help the small businessman and overseas workers. Because I removed the service fee, the VBank, anybody can now have a bank account online. They don't have to go to the bank. So that's a big help to the overseas workers and small businessman, business group.
Governor, what was the clincher for you in making this decision? We do know that you have already spent a lot. We see your billboards out on the roads, in the highways, at kung saan-saan pa. Gaano po kayo katagal sa ospital? At ano po yung punto na nasabi nyo na hindi ko na lang itutuloy ito?
No, pinag-isipan ko mabuti dahil maski manalo ako, it's not worth it. Pakyat na nga eh. From 40 plus, naging 32, naging 22, tong January, wala pa. Pero nag-number 1 na sa Facebook. Top 3, I mean. So gumaganda. Ngayon gumaganda, bakit ako mag-quit? Yun nga, sabi nga sa akin. Pero iniisip ko mabuti nung nasa hospital ako. Napagaling nila yung pneumonia ko, pero hindi mo alam kung kailan ulit babalik or tamaan ka along the way. Dahil matagal pa eh. Hindi pa nag-umpisa ang talagang campaign.
Governor, i-rephrase ko lang yung tanong ko. Sino po ang i-endorso nyo ngayon? Ngayon na hindi na kayo mismo kandidato, will you still endorse any specific candidates, whether for Senate or sa local, dyan sa may Ilocos Sur, sa probinsya ninyo po? Or talagang step back muna kayo sa politika at itutuloy nyo na lang yung mga program?
Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang pagtulong ko sa tao. Kaya yun nga, isang na-decide ko eh, makakatulong din pala ako maski wala ako sa posisyon. So, ang main reason ko tumakbo because the bill na pinail yung mga anak ko sa Congress, nasa Senate pa rin up to now. So, na-decide ko, marami naman tayong kaibigan dyan, kakausapin ko na lang uli sila. Kasi palipat-lipat kung saan-saan dahil we are now the fifth richest province in the whole country. Ayaw ko kung bumaba. Kung makuha ko yung free economic zone, ang dami namin investor. Kaya ang ginawa ko na, hindi ako ma-approve, nagtayo ako ng economic zone ko sa Korea. I have 2 economic zones now in Korea. One in Gangwon province, one in Incheon province, which I just started last year. So, doon na lang ako nagtayo. Dapat yan, dito lahat yan. So, ipupursige ko pa rin yung pag-follow up sa Senate. Patulong na lang ako sa mga senador na nakaupo, saka yung mga mananalo. Pareho rin. So, yun lang naman ang intention ko. Para mapadali sana yung dahil ilan years na namin naantay yan, di ma-approve. Yung pre-economic zone sa Ilocos, which we needed very badly.
Governor, what about the plan to provide electric vehicles to the transport groups? Last time you were in the studio with us, you talked about it.
Tuloy. I'm all financing it. Lugi nga ako dyan eh. Pero hindi pa ako matras dyan. Yung pagtakbo ko lang sa Senate ako matras. Tutuloy ko rin yun dahil commitment ko yan sa mga drivers.
Governor,
nandito na lahat yung mga machine, dumating na. So by February siguro, mass production na kami. We could do around 500 to 600 electric vehicles. Ginagamit na nila dito. Yung prototype, ginagamit na nila. Yung supposed to be 28-seater, 22-seater plus 6 standing, total 28 passenger. Noong nga 12, 40 ang laman. Hindi nakatayo. Pinaghakot-hakot nila ang tao. So maganda, walang complaint sa mga drivers. Ginagamit na nila yung mga prototype na nadala ko. Pinakamalaki kasi makina sa lahat ng gumagawa. Of course, pinakamura. And the quality. Dahil yung side, bakal na manipis na hindi kinakalawang. Yung mga bago lang ginamit ko.
Governor, I guess the question in people's minds is when are you going to formalize your withdrawal? Because you haven't filed it yet with the COMELEC.
They told me I have to go to COMELEC to withdraw formally. Tinatanong ko nga kung hindi na lang bibilangin yung mga boto ko. Mas gustuin ko magpunta lang sa COMELEC magpirma. Hindi ko alam patakaran nila pa dahil hindi pa ako nakipag-usap sa COMELEC.
May kinausap po ba kayo bago...
Pero in-announce ko na.
May kinausap po ba kayo bago kayo nagdesisyon na katulad ng matalik niyong kaibigan na tumatakbo rin bilang senador, si Willie Revillame, ano naman ang sinabi niya? At anong naipayo niyo sa kanya?
Willie, tutulungan ako, tumatawag, tutulungan ako. Hindi ko sinasabi na na-decide ko na hindi na ako tutuloy. Nagpapasalamat ako kay Willie Revillame dahil siya nga tutulong sa akin. Isa siya sa mga tumutulong. Aside from other senators. Pero si Willie, inibita na ako sa show niya. Gusto niya akong dalhin doon para tulungan.
Hindi po ba kayo napagod?
Papasalamat ako kay Willie dahil nag-offer siya ng gano'n. Although tumatakbo rin siya.
Ano po masasabi niyo sa political climate po natin ngayon? Medyo magulo po yung yun nga sinasabi nga nila sa pagitan ng mga Duterte at mga Marcos. Yung ba'y nakikita niyo na maaaring ikadulot ng mas masamang kalusugan po? Kung sakasakaling manalo po kayo, ano po masasabi niyo sa away politika ngayon?
Well, nahiya ako mag-comment dyan dahil pareho ko sinamahan sila. All the way, hindi ako tumakbo maski anong posisyon. Dahil ako nagpasama sa kanila dahil maganda yung plano na pagsasama, pagkakaisa. At so sinamahan ko sila all the way sa buong Pilipinas.
Pero
so nakapokus ako doon noon. So ngayon naghiwalay na. Ayaw ko naman makialam dahil nga pareho kong sinuportahan.
Pero sigurado, Gov, no? Ngayon napapalapit na yung midterm elections at nag-step down ka na from your candidacy, ay talagang lalapitan ka ng dalawang panig, no? Para sa inyong endorsement. Pipili ba kayo ng panig or step?
You would have to choose at some point, Gov, no?
Ano yun?
Kasi mapipilitan po kayo. Kung nilapitan po kayo ng dalawang panig at humingi ng endorsement ninyo,
ayun nga problema. Malaking problema.
Pipili po ba kayo ng panig o no na lang to both?
Nakasakit yan.
Okay.
Dapat nga magsama ulit Dahil kailangan natin ngayon. Magugulo yan kung hindi sila magkasama.
So what would you advise them instead, Governor? What would you advise them? You've been in politics a long time. Marami ka na rin, you've lived through a lot of challenges na rin. What would you advise both sides at this point?
Kanino?
Sa
dalawang panig.
Well, trabaho muna sila sana para sa ating bansa. Wala sana munang politics. Yun lang masabi ko. Nahiya naman ako makialam dahil wala na ako sa posisyon. Hindi na ako tumakbo. Pero ako pa rin ang emeritus president ng mga Mayor's League, Councilors League, na inelect. Saka mga governors, tumatawag sila sa akin na hindi ko na mapuntahan dahil nga sa nangyari sa akin sa pneumonia. So, nasasayangan din ako pero wala akong magawa dahil useless. Ngayon pa naman napakyat yung rating, nasasayangan yung mga nagtatrabaho sa akin, the team, na magandang ginawa. Maganda lahat ang ginawa nila. All I have to do is to go around. Nakakonect na lahat. Mayroon kaming regional managers, provincial managers, regional, up to the barangay. So, marami pa akong gagawin.
Yeah.
Inisip ko lahat yun. For sure, tatamaan dahil nga tinamaan na yung lungs ko twice. Hindi ko na antayin pangatlo.
Of course, of course.
Lalo na ngayon na mayroon mga bagong viruses na galing sa China.
Yeah.
Yun ang isang nag-ano sa akin, hindi ko na.
Of course.
Ano yung kung panalo kung mawawala naman ako. So.
Gov, malaki na po ba nagastos natin?
Pag gumastos kasi ako, hindi ko iniisip eh. Kita, gastos, gano'n ako.
Hindi nyo binibilang?
Gastusin ko na lang sa pag-bakasyon
May
siguro.
balita kasi na sa PCIJ ngayon na parang binilang po nila yung mga ads ni Senator Amy Marcos na aabot na raw ng 1 bilyon. Kayo po, meron ba kayong computation?
Well, yung mga, pero maski hindi na ako tumatakbo, tumutulong pa rin ako sa mga ibang kandidato.
Okay. Well, I'm sure magkikita pa tayo ulit. At marami ka pa nga mga negosyo at marami pa ring project. Go.
We're very happy to hear that okay ka na, that you are healed at least from this bout.
Yes. Wala na yung pneumonia na gumaling na lahat. Lahat, clear lahat.
Yes, very good to hear. Okay, please stay safe, but we'll have to leave that there for now. Thank you so much for your time tonight, former Governor Luis Chavit Singson.
We're going to be pausing for a quick break right after that. Is physical discipline of children acceptable? Well, the Supreme Court says yes, but only to some extent. We will have clinical psychologist Dr. Camille Garcia weigh in on the High Court's recent decision when the big story returns. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You are still on the big story here on One News. Spare the rod, spoil the child. The Supreme Court finds nothing wrong with that old saying, nor with physical discipline of children. But it is warning parents and guardians against excessive punishment, which constitutes child abuse. In a decision penned by Associate Justice Joseph Lopez of the 2nd Division, the High Tribunal upheld the conviction of a father of 2 earlier found guilty of violating Republic Act 7610, or the Special Protection of Children Against Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act. The parent subjected his 12-year-old daughter and 10-year-old son to violent discipline between 2017 and 2018, which included cursing, hair pulling, and striking them with a dustpan and a wooden rod. The SC said laying of hands against a child when done in the spur of the moment and in the heat of anger cannot be deemed as an act of child abuse. It becomes so when there is clear intent to harm a child's dignity. The father was sentenced to 4 to 6 years in prison and fined 45,000 pesos. All right, parents out there, listen up. Let's try to get some insights on this from Dr. Camille Garcia, a clinical psychologist. Dr. Garcia, good evening. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, good evening. Good evening.
This is, as a parent, I have to say, I hear this debate a lot. I don't think there's this is always going to be, one of the foremost questions in parents' mind, which is how far do you go to discipline your children? Tell us what you think about this Supreme Court decision.
Okay, first and foremost, when you talk about punishment, it really depends, because sometimes there's tendency, if we if that particular parent has anger management issues, there's a tendency that a simple slap can be something na sobrang masakit or sobrang you cannot control it. So there's really a tendency for somebody na talagang maging abusive yung the way you're going to punish your child. And definitely, there's a lot of psychological impact on the child, not necessarily during the time that he was being slapped or being parang kicked or kung ano man yung klase ng punishment na binigay. Usually, it happens eventually during the time that the child is already trying to have a personality post-adolescent to preteens to young adult, because usually the personality starts at around 15, 16, 17. And if it is not resolved, there's a tendency that the personality of this child will actually have mental health issues, or even it will come to a point that this child could be a bully in school. And there are a lot of possible psychological effect na hindi maganda. And definitely, if you're going to talk about children ng Gen Z at saka yung mga ngayon yung Generation Alpha, they have a lot of knowledge about mental health issues. So more or less, alam nila yung magiging concern pag masyadong magkaroon ng mga ganitong klaseng pananakit of the parents.
Pero dagdagan ko lang, Doc Camille, no? A lot of the parents now are also millennials and Gen X. Medyo woke na din, kumbaga, yung mga parents. So usually, they also take into consideration, like, yun nga parang, how do you discipline a child, right? Because there is physical abuse, you're right, but there's also mental abuse, right? And if... And then what is excessive, right? And how can you leave it to a parent to decide what's excessive? So if there's so many questions and there's no like clear kumbaga instructions naman talaga, what would you say would define kung kumbaga yung boundary na hindi ka pa excessive?
Okay. First, when you talk of something excessive, of course, definitely, when you slap a child, automatic yan, magkakaroon ng bruise yun. Tapos kung ngayon sasabihin nyo naman na isang beses lang na tap, the best thing is for you na every time na kung talagang you cannot control the physical na pananakit, you have to make it a point that the child should understand why you have to do it. Unfortunately, yung iba, pag talagang nagalit na lang, merong displaced anger. So ang tendency, there's a possibility that this parent, without knowledge ng bata, yung what happens, because galit na galit lang siya, biglang mananakit yung parent. So that's another thing. And then definitely, among parents now, although sasabihin natin na they are more careful, at the same time, hindi sila nagiging talagang they're trying to control itong ganitong klaseng issue na mananakit. The problem now is yung possibility na how consistent a parent should be in disciplining the child. Why? Because there are some instances especially na the parent is very consistent in disciplining na, you're grounded. Unfortunately, ang mga lola, sometimes sasabihin ganun, they will come to the house. I'm going to visit my apo and I'm supposed to bring my apo outside. We're going to do shopping. And then sasabihin ni parent na, Mommy, my child is grounded because of the fact na meron siyang ginawang kasalanan. Tapos then the lola will get angry dahil kasi magagalit doon sa nanay. So the apo, now, syempre, magkakaroon ng pagkakataon na, sasama sa lola. So makikita nyo, nawawala yung consistency ng discipline. Then, that's the problem now. Because doon magkakaroon ng possibility na merong comparison, tapos yung boundaries na afektahan, yung limitations na supposed to be nasisira. So, sometimes, even though na you wanted a very parang you are a responsible and a good parent, the tendency, pag merong mga nakikialam na mga ibang surrogate parents, kagaya ng mga grandparents or others na talagang close dun sa bata. So yun yung nagiging mahirap yung the possibility na maging consistent in terms of disciplining. Kasi ngayon bibihira na siguro yung authoritative type na parent na sobra yung pagdidisiplina talagang napaka-ballistic, sobrang may compulsion, ganon. Kasi remember, when you talk of yung mga possibility why they are being disciplined na sa ganito, pwede rin na they are also being disciplined by their parents before. Kaya ganon din now, yung hindi nila na incorporate, na imomodify the way they're going to more or less discipline their children. Kaya nagkakaroon ng problema.
Hey, Doc, are you against all forms of corporal punishment? Just being a devil's advocate here, parang lahat po kami napalo, nakurot.
We were talking about it during the break. Parang may generational divide here.
Yung kapatid ko ay nasinturon, napakain na ako ng sili noon, mahilig ako sumangha ngayon. I mean, are you against all forms of this? Wala bang magandang maidudulot ito? Kasi parang okay naman kami.
Or so we think.
Or basta
so
in-explain sa'yo, like you said.
Others would say, nasa Biblia yan. Kaya nga yung spare the rod, spoil the child. In fact, I remember sa bahay, meron kami yung rod talaga na Bible verse na kalagay. Galing pa sa simbahan yon. I mean, what would you say to that?
Okay. Of course, sasabihin ng psychologist na any form of punishment, physical punishment, is hindi makakabuti and it can cause trauma sa mga bata. Unfortunately, hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon. There are some instances that sometimes you really have to more or less show the child why you have to do it. Kaya nga sabi ko, dapat every time na you really want, grade 2, siguro mga 7 or 8 years old, biglang kumuha siya ng pera. So, it is so impossible na just explain na, ay, masama yung pagkuha ng pera. Kasi sasabihin niya, bakit si ganitong classmate ko kumukuha siya ng pera sa, kaya nga. So, parang sometimes ang tendency, ayan ha, papaliin ko yung mga kamay mo para you should understand why I have to slap them for reasons na maintindihan mo, meron kasing ginawa kong kasalanan. Siguro, alam mo yung boundaries at saka limitations, and you should also explain to the child bakit kailangan gawin yun. Alam mo, maganda rin na sabihin na natin na nakatikim tayo lahat ng palo for reasons na sa akin nakadulot siya ng na naintindihan ko, hindi ako mareklamo na yung parang mas naiintindihan ko na ma-modify ko kung how I will be able to raise my son. Although yung son ko talaga nakatikim din ng palo, pero I have to explain why I have to do it. Alam din naman niya. And sa kanya, hindi siya, naging apologetic pa siya dun sa ginawa niya. Kasi everything, kailangan talaga open yung communication. At the same time, hindi yung basta mananakit ka, may ginawa kang kasalanan, ganon. Hindi ganon. Kasi kumisan, dun nagkakaroon tayo ng kulang ng in terms of how you should be able to discipline the children. Parang sasabihin, ang hirap dun sa iba na, ako yung nanay niyan, ako magdidisiplina niyan. What? Siyempre dapat ang isipin din natin, when you discipline a child, nandun din yung safety involved. Kasi safe space, di ba? Ang dami na nga nating mga laws about sa safe space ng mga bata. Yung meron na rin tayong kung ano-ano pang mga ibang laws para to protect our children. So more or less, tayo rin dapat ma-incorporate din naman natin yun.
Doc,
unfortunately, sa iba, hindi lang naiintindihan yun.
Doc Camille, quick follow-up lang, no? Nabanggit mo kanina, nagkakaroon na ng totoong personality ang isang bata na sa mga 14, 15, 16, right? Pag teenager, the troubling years, the difficult years for parents, ako mismo, inaamin ko, yun yung mga years na medyo tinutubuan ako ng sungay. Pero in terms of yun nga, kakausapin mo yung bata, no? Na ito yung parusa mo dahil may hindi ka magandang ginawa. Some children are also too young for that. So ano yung age threshold na pwede mo na talagang kausapin at maintindihan talaga nung bata? Meron ba tayong clinical, kumbaga peg or basis kung nasa anong age yon?
Okay, when you talk of pag toddlers, 2 to 3, syempre, definitely, sasabihin mo lang, mali yan ha, parang ganon. Pero kung sasabihin mo talagang for you to be able to explain dun sa ginagawa na isang bata, it's supposed to be school age. Kasi dito mai-incorporate na rin din yung discipline coming from the school at saka ikaw. So the school and the household din, syempre, should work hand in hand in disciplining the child. Kasi pag yung ang nangyari, total papasok naman niya sa school So maintindihan niya kasi yung teacher na lang mag-explain. Hindi pa pwede. Parehas. So school age talagang, yun yung critical age that kailangan matuto ng disiplina. At the same time, dyan din na-form ang mga habits. Because repetitive acts like yung pag-uwi sa school, kailangan merong study time, merong play time, limited yung hours ng paggamit ng gadget. Pagdating sa ganyan, paulit-ulit siyang ginagawa. Then, mag-create yun ng certain habit and then makikita mo, maiintindihan uli ng bata na, eto na, nadidisiplina mo siya with constant repetition ng certain behavior.
What are your views on the other end of the spectrum? There's gentle parenting, which I find a lot of people misunderstand. So it becomes permissive parenting, wherein the parents basically let the child do what it wants and decide on things, no matter how young the child is. What are your views on that from what you've seen on how people implement gentle parenting?
Okay, when you say you're a good parent, you're also supposed to be a responsible one. Hindi pa pwedeng good parent ka lang and then you allow a lot of things. Dapat you should also be responsible. And when you say you are responsible, you should set the limitation, you should set the boundaries. First and foremost, nakatiriyan sa bahay mo. So, ikaw yung magsiset ng mga limitations and boundaries. Second, make it a point na you're disciplining a child, your child, and you're not supposed to compare your child to other people, to other cousins, or even pag yung mga classmates na ginagamit ang social media para i-expose yung mga achievements. Kasi sometimes doon na nag-uumpisa na they will have possibility for inferiority complex, bumababa ang self-esteem, ang level of confidence, nawawala. So talagang makikita mo, ikaw na rin mismo ang naggagawa o nagcreate ng mga possible behavior na hindi maganda dun sa bata na yon.
Okay, very good points, all of those. We're going to have to leave that there for now. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was clinical psychologist Dr. Camille Garcia. Thanks so much for your insights.
Right, just like that, Regina is back. And all our time for tonight is gone.
Just like that, 7 weeks flew by.
Oh, what did you do for our audiences to know?
Well, I went on what's called the Jefferson Fellowship, which tackled the South China Sea, the geopolitics around the South China Sea, which is the story that we opened with today, right? And what countries like the Philippines and territories like Taiwan are doing to counter China's expansionism. There are no straight up answers, basically, but
just interesting discussions.
Okay, give us one important insight that you got from this.
One important insight is that I was surprised to find out how much Taiwan was prepared for an invasion. They study this fully. Normal citizens take civil defense classes to prepare for D-Day, what they call D-Day.
You mean it's taught in school?
It's not taught in school, but there are classes that you can sign up for, where there's air raid shelters that are working effectively today, even though there's peace in the island. There's a lot of air raid shelters all around. The semiconductor supply chain, the semiconductor factories have got backup plans. They know what's going to happen once invasion happens. Then there's the strategy around it. So basically, there's a lot of preparation going on. I was surprised to see all of that firsthand. I thought, sitting here, it sounds a lot of it sounds hypothetical, right? A lot of it sounds like, okay, it may or may not happen. We don't know. And to us, it's far off because it's the South China Sea. It's very far from Manila. To them, it's a reality, right? It's a real.
They've embraced it. And
it
is part of their identity as well, I think.
Is.
Okay, we really have run out of time. Welcome back, Reg. We have missed you. But that's it for the big story tonight.
Well, now you have the Philippines problems back on your plate. We are One News, all sides, all the time.